Hello, playful souls. Today is the forecast for the entire week of August 27th through September 2nd. And we are going to be covering how it's feeling right now in the universe first, before we get into the actual reading, because I can tell you that a lot of people are having difficulty at the moment, whether it's because circumstances have arisen in their lives or something along those lines, but a lot of people are having difficulty. So if I were to give you a collective unconscious weather report, it's a little bit stormy. I have been feeling the Schumann resonance that has been shifting and had a huge burst yesterday, or I believe actually a couple of days ago, which was on the 25th of August. Feeling it in my bones, feeling it in my joints. So physically being affected, but a lot of people being kind of karmically affected as well as emotionally affected as a result of those karmic shifts. Obviously, we have a number of planets in retrograde, which could be contributing to this. So we will see how this ends up going, but a lot of opportunity right now to emotionally let go of things. And what it doesn't have to be an active process. It just has to be a process of recognizing that there's weather moving through your system, and the weather moving through your system doesn't need to necessarily be anything other than like, let's batten down the hatches and wait it out. So, this is the official reading for the 27th of August to September 2nd. Okay, so here's the official reading for September 27th through September 2nd. And we are going to be using Alana Fairchild's Crystal Mandala, which is a beautiful deck because it actually contains three decks, in which you have the Crystal Goddesses, you have the Crystal Angels, I believe, the Crystal Masters, and the Crystal Angels. So all three of them have representation in this very beautiful deck, in which you can see the. Here's an example of a card in which you guys will see in a second. So here's the reading for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You know, I have to say that with the understanding that I have of the world recently with my podcast, The Spiritual Fixed, there was a recent discovery that I had about kind of the nature of the world, and that, you know, there, in many, many ways, we're here to create, and yet we often create strife. And this is what feels like, before picking the cards, it feels like there's a real benefit to not necessarily buying in the need to create strife in our lives, letting emotion and storm and weather move through our system. And Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, integrity. When I feel into this card, more so than anything, what I feel is I feel that there is a need. It's Goddess Rhiannon and Amazonite. And I feel more so than anything that there's a need to check your boundaries. Check your energetic boundaries. How much are you giving out? What are you doing? When are you feeling like it's enough for whatever it is that you're doing? That is super important right now. And so your integrity lies in your ability to keep your own energy field while also giving to others in an equal exchange, even if you are serving somebody else. Yeah, keep your integrity. Keep those walls strong. Those permeable, beautiful, auric boundaries, not walls. All right, next is going to be Wednesday, Thursday, which is the last days of August. Safe to be seen. Archangel Gabriel and turquoise. How does that feel, to be safe to be seen? Like, what does it feel like to be like, oh, I can actually reveal myself in everything that I am? All my beautiful faults, all my beautiful anything. Like, I don't have to be appropriate. I can just acknowledge and be with people, or choose people where it feels that I'm safe to be seen. Or it doesn't even matter who I'm around. I'm just going to choose that it's safe to be seen. It's safe to be seen for wherever I am in my process right now. Next we have the Friday, Saturday, which is September 1st and 2nd. Goddess Maya and Ruby Aura Quartz. Searing presence. You know, when we're safe to be seen, it does feel as if there's an ability to have searing presence. Searing presence that just really chooses a different way to show up. Because I can feel myself on many different occasions going into that place of like, oh, I'm not really I'm just going to stand back here and see how this goes. But actually fully stepping into searing presence. It can be difficult because it's searing, right? In the sense of it can be difficult because it feels like you're going to burn up everybody around you. And why were you given that if you were meant to hold it back? Here's the reading for the week. Let's see if we get a master. We've gotten 2 goddesses and an angel. And so we got another angel. We got nourishment. This is for the entire week, starting on August 27th and going through to September 2nd. Apparently that was not meant to be the card. Maybe that was just meant to be the card for me. That was nourishment. I could see that. Archangel Raphael and Malachite, grace for the grand gesture. I love this card. This card is a card that it's a concept that grace for the grand gesture is a concept that I've taken into my life to recognize when there is a need for a grand gesture, whether to give to yourself or to give to others. And I can't tell you how many times this has done the thing, right? I think it goes along the lines of the whole radical candor, radical forgiveness, radical acceptance, the whole radical movement, which searing presence also kind of lends itself to, but this idea that there's a grace for the grand gesture, right? And if you see the progression of everything that's happened this week, we're starting off with the experience of integrity, like making sure that our boundaries are good. And then we're going into checking that it's safe to be seen. We're like, hey, I'm me. I have my boundaries. I have my borders up. My aura is clear. And then I feel like I'm going to reassure myself it's safe to be seen. And then I'm going to have searing presence. And all of those is a grand gesture towards yourself. It's all pointing towards a grand gesture to yourself to be like, hey, guess what? We're going to just try and come out fully out of the shell, fully into that place of searing presence. And we're going to allow you to do that throughout the week. And as you allow yourself to do that throughout the week, that's when you say, I actually know the answers to my own questions. That's when you say, I'm actually in a place where I can understand that me fully showing up in this moment is the most important thing for me to do right now. So one of the things that I absolutely think is such an amazing quirk about reality is that we have come to accept past life regressions, but we haven't come to accept future life regressions. And so right now I want to channel in a future life of myself who has an understanding, a greater understanding of, they're telling me funny things right now, who has a greater understanding of what it wants to tell me right now. It's kind of like doing the higher self. But in this case, no, we're just going to do the higher self. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is I'm just going to channel in my higher self with a message for what I need to hear and what everyone else needs to hear right now, from the perspective of being able to see everything. So here it goes. When you understand the fact that there is an understated expression of self within the world, you also understand that there is an inability to keep out darkness because there's so much darkness that pulls into your aura. There is so much experience that pulls into your aura that you understand when you are not in your place of searing presence, when you are not fully available within your entire aura, there has been an opportunity for there to be lots of space in between. You see, when you look at the cells and the space that exists between the cells, it seems as if there is nothing there. When you see the space between the planets, it feels as if there is nothing there, and yet it is filled with your searing presence, with the searing presence of the collective, with the experience of patterns and geometry such that even though you cannot physically see it, it is not material, it is actually holding up the space between the spaces. And what is so important about recognizing this is that when you do not recognize that you are the space between the spaces, then you choose to be a smaller footprint of what you can be. And when you are a smaller footprint, other things can occupy the space between the spaces. And we do not want that. Understanding that you go beyond the business and that you go beyond the boundaries of your physical matter, that you are well beyond this, whether it is an auric field and beyond, and you go into all the spaces between your cells as well, then you can understand that there's a need to be able to truly feel the space between the spaces, the space that you occupy between you and another individual, We are not bubbles that go around in the world and we happen to bump into each other. We are complete, continuous in the entire sea of everything, and there is simply a concentration and node of energy, and you are able to reach out in that time, place, and that period, and that space between, and be able to feel into that space and occupy it. When you have searing presence, you are occupying that entire space as much as you are able to sustain within this body, and therefore you are in a space where you can truly come into understanding of I am more than just my physical body. I can reach out into this space. And therefore, the more you have this searing presence, the more you have this movement out of your body, the less opportunity there is for frequent entity attachments, the less opportunity there is for things to get into that space. If you occupy the entire room, no one can walk into the room. And so when we get to this place of understanding that there is a true gift in having your searing presence and having yourself there, in which you're saying, first, as we see the week, first, I have integrity. What does my integrity look like? How are the walls? Do I have anything currently in my system that needs to be removed? That is number one. And then you say, it's safe for me to be seen as me, as big as it possibly can be. And then once I feel like I have moved beyond just this small, I have to be self-conscious, I have to look inward and feel very in my personal story, I can move outwards. And when I move outwards, I say, oh, I'm searing presence. Not only is it safe for me to be seen, but I occupy so much space. And by having that, that is the grand gesture that your body is looking for right now. There is so much movement in the planets. There is so much movement in different things which are getting us smaller, which are making it so that we cannot easily come into a space of wanting to be big. We are feeling the movement of the planets. We are feeling the movement of what is happening on the earth. We are feeling the movement of what is happening in human events, on environmental events, and it is making us smaller and smaller. And right now, it is like we are sitting on a plane and we have very little space, and the person in front of us has put their seat down, and we can't put our seat down because we're in the back row, and perhaps we have all of our luggage because the overhead bins were too big, and we're feeling like this. And right now we need to take this moment to be like, oh, I can get off this plane at any time and I can stretch out. Or maybe even I just feel like I'm in first class, where I can stretch out. I don't have to live in the economy of the world anymore, the economy of space, which says that it is not safe for me to be seen. And so that is where we are in this place and time, in that you are being asked to make the grand gesture of occupying your entire field, which is not just your auric field, but everything that goes beyond it. So please do yourself a favor this week. Please do this for yourself. Please commit to having your searing presence, to burning out any aspect of you that is not you, that is not fully you, that does not love you. Even in your darkest, villainous, most difficult times, you love those parts too, and you have searing presence and acceptance of yourself, and you feel that it is safe to be seen for you in all of your beauty and all of your flaws. That is where we are going this week. That is what helps you get through this period that is a difficult period, a contraction period. Thanks, y'all.